Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
If you're not a part of the Franchise Secrets Facebook group, what are you waiting for? It's franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. I cannot believe how valuable this group turned out to be. When someone asks a question, the feedback is honest, authentic, very helpful, and it's from multiple perspectives. If you're not sure that you're getting the most accurate information about franchising, then check out the largest, most helpful Facebook group in all of franchising. Whether you're a Z, a ZOR, a buyer, or investor, join our free Facebook group at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. Hey, in this episode, I talked to Paul Rocchio. He's with the International Franchise Association, and he's been there for many years. He's really responsible for member retention and recruitment. Has seen a lot in the franchising world, has some amazing mentors, and we get real honest because a lot of people don't know about the IFA. And if they do know, they just know it stands for the International Franchise Association, and they don't really care about it, especially if you're a franchisee. Well, we get into some of the things that they've done recently to actually help franchisees and why that might be interesting to you. We talk about why join as a franchisee, franchisor, or supplier. And I give them some pushback on some things, like why does it really matter? Why does legislation matter? Why do all these things different matter? And then we go down some good tangents on when you're at the IFA convention. It's a massive convention, or really any convention for that matter, when you have some of the A players from all these different franchisors, A player franchisees and suppliers. You get to talk to them. Bring a notepad, bring your iPad, bring a recording device, because there are things that you will be able to talk. There's things that you can talk about that you normally don't get to talk about. And there are people that you get to talk to that you normally don't get to talk to. And I use myself as a prime example for that. So I hope you enjoyed this show with IFA and Paul. Hey, here today with Paul Rocchio. It's not spelled, it doesn't look like that's how it's spelled, but his last name is a very cool last name, Rocchio. Paul is the man over at the IFA. Paul, define what the man means.
It means I wash the windows and sweep the floor. Listen, I've been with IFA, 23 years. I'm either smart, stupid, or a little of both. But, fell in love with franchising. Here I am. I currently oversee membership here at IFA. So at the end of the day, I'm responsible for recruitment and retention. And it's, I'm working with, franchisors, franchisees, and suppliers, and potential franchisors, franchisees, and suppliers on a daily basis. Sometimes it's more on the recruitment side. Sometimes it's more on the retention side. But it's fun, it's not like, how many people wake up every day and love what they do? And I'm one of them. And, but I'll tell you, one of these days, I always tell myself, what am I doing promoting going into business for yourself, but not by yourself? And here I am working for a nonprofit trade association. I should become a franchisee. What am I doing wrong?
Why haven't you? What
am I doing wrong?
When was the last time that you tried to do something about it? Have you ever gone to a discovery day as a potential franchisee?
Never. And I'll tell you why. If I came home and told my wife, guess what, honey, I'm a franchisee of XYZ, she would probably, wring my neck. But, I'm telling you, it'll happen one of these days.
So when you see Paul's neck, like out of just not a normal neck, you'll know that he bought his first franchise.
Exactly.
I love it. Everyone, you might get retained if you're a member already, or you might get recruited. But the point of having Paul on is I don't think there's enough out there in the general franchising world on the IFA and the International Franchise Organization. And I say that because I'm included in that mix. Being a franchisee for so many years, I knew and being part of brands that made like the stage there, and franchisees that were IFA Franchisee of the Year. Like I was in systems with them, and yet I didn't know enough about it as a franchisee. Even as franchisors, I talk to them all the time. And us as a early stage franchisors, I've helped different brands. they are not as active as they should be. And then once they are, they're like, holy cow, there's some amazing things happening at the IFA. So why would a franchisee even want to be a member of the IFA? Like, why?
Yes, Eric, that is an amazing question. It's a really good question. So, listen, we protect, promote, and enhance franchising globally. But, even though we are the International Franchise Association, the majority of our members are domestic. Obviously, some of the big boys and girls, are operating globally. We also have international members, franchisors, or even master franchisees who, want to be a part of the IFA. They want to come to our convention. So they do join. But we have, about 50 members that are, do not have an FDD and are not, operating and don't have plans to operate in the US. Now, at the end of the day, for a franchisee, and this is what I've always heard from our current, franchisee members who are
Perfect.
also
I was going
volunteer
to ask
leaders.
you. I was going to say, like, you're telling me what you say why they should want to join, but what about what they want to?
Yeah, well,
and
exactly,
that's
because,
exactly what you're getting ready to say.
Yeah, because listen, I'm biased, right? And I have to be. But I work for IFA. But at the end of the day, it's always about. And I always tell people, don't listen to me, talk to a member. So listen, our current franchisee members, they will tell you the reason why they joined IFA and got involved in IFA, for the most part, is because like you said, their franchisor came to them and said, I really want you to be involved in IFA. You're a leader within our system. It could be the head of the franchisee advisory council. It could be whatever, but and that's usually how franchisees, for the most part, get involved in IFA. And then they realize that, the key thing for them is to be able to meet with and network with franchisees from other systems. Yes, there's, franchising is franchising. I always say this kind of tongue in cheek, franchising is franchising, whether you're switching out mufflers, flipping hamburgers, or trying to fill hotel beds, it's all the same. Well, on the franchisee side, kind of the same thing, whether you're in the restaurant business, the pet care business, the child care business, you're an owner operator, you are running a small business. And, listen, we all know there's some multi-unit, multi-branded franchisees out there that are bigger than most franchisors, right? They employ more people, but, generally speaking, I'm just talking about like that, maybe somebody who has 2 or 3 units, maybe somebody who has 1 unit as a franchisee. So they get involved primarily so they can network with other franchisees and kind of, almost benchmark, their system against other systems, and then either, validate for themselves that, wow, our system and our franchisor is stellar, or wow, this system, this is really cool what they do with this system. I'm going to bring that back to our system and to our franchisor. And then also it's really what we do on the protection side of things. And that's where, at the end of the day, we are the lobbying arm for franchising.
So let's talk about like convention and meeting and network, and just even the price to join as a franchisee, because I think it's a very, very fair, like it's a no-brainer price to pay for a franchisee. And here's where I'm going with this. I emailed a mutual friend, Eric Schechterman, and I said, hey man,
that's right. It was Eric. I was trying to remember how we got connected. It was good old Eric. Yeah.
Good old Eric. And he spelled his name with a C. So he's very wrong with that, but he's right in most other things. And he told me the next dates in 2023. And I'm like, you know what? I said, I should have my franchisee and franchisor mastermind meet up before the next IFA convention.
Yes. Heck yes.
And that way, maybe I could get some of the cool speakers that are coming in there to speak to the mastermind, but also it's easy for them to go to the IFA and be exposed to something that is much bigger than we are normally exposed to. So talking about pricing, yeah. I like it. Well, let's talk about that. And then let's talk about why come to a convention? Well, how much does it cost? How much does it cost for a franchisee that their franchisor is not even a part of IFA?
So if a franchisee's franchisor is not a member of IFA, they would need to be a subscribing or dues paying member. And it is, it's, listen, I like to think it's a very reasonable price point. If you're a single unit franchisee, it's $110 per year to be a dues paying member of IFA. And then, depending on how many units you have, it's capped at $550. If you're an area developer or a franchisee association, whether it's sanctioned by the franchisor or not, or even sometimes franchisee advisory councils have joined, it's capped at $550. And we have some franchisors who actually pay for their franchisees to be members of IFA. So again, it's like, we have about 1,000, not quite 1,000, I'm rounding up, but about 1,000 dues paying franchisee members. And, if you don't mind me kind of jumping ahead, I might know what your next question might be, but if you don't mind me.
Well, first of all,
yeah,
I want you to go wherever you're going, but $100 for a single or $550, $550 is cheap, everyone. So anyone thinking about doing it just to start to get access to some of the stuff that they have, access to the convention and whatnot, $550 is cheap. We should talk about doing something I'd pay for members of my higher level mastermind to be members of the IFA, because I think that would be fantastic.
Eric, that would be awesome. And listen, and if your franchisor is a member of IFA, you still have the option to be a dues paying member, but you could actually join under our system, what we refer to as our system-wide free membership program. And basically you receive all of your benefits electronically through your email account, and you get to attend IFA events at the discounted member rate. So yeah, membership is free. And we have over 11,000 franchisees that are members of IFA through what we refer to as I refer internally as our Z-free or system-wide free membership program. And it's awesome. Again, a lot of these franchisees, they're small business people. A majority of them are single unit, but they're able to kind of receive Franchising World digitally, smart briefs. They could kind of pick and choose cafeteria style, if you will, what they would like to receive from us. And it helps, kind of keep them, on top of and connected to what's happening in franchising, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will. And it's a wonderful program. It was designed back in the early 2000s. And it was the idea of, at the time, my CEO, Don DeBolt. And it was a great program and great vehicle.
Don's a great guy, man.
Yes. Yeah, he is. And he's a multi-unit franchisee right now. The guy will never stop. He will never stop.
Well, that's going to be you someday.
It probably will be, man. I'm going to follow in his footsteps.
hey, real quick. Let's talk about like what you actually did for franchisees with PP. We just came through COVID.
Yes.
And that we had, PPP was amazing. So like it's easy for people to forget the PPP money that they got, like these grants that were forgivable, or the EIDL loans. I'm just getting ready to get another one, an EIDL loan that is closing, even though we're past the time and all that. I'm getting a $400,000 EIDL loan at 3 something percent. Wow. This was amazing. Both of these programs. So, and tell us, like, what did the IFA do to help franchisees to get to be a part of some of that?
Oh, you bet. And listen, this was, I will be more than happy to continue to to boost the egos of my colleagues on the other side of the office on the government relations team. And listen, at the time, and I'll do a shout out to, and not because he's my big boss, but Matt Haller is a fairly new president and CEO of IFA. I've worked with Matt for over a decade, and at the time, Matt was heading up government relations here at IFA. And listen, we are, as a trade association, believe it or not, we are a small trade association in terms of our staff, in terms of our revenue, our annual budget. We're not the National Restaurant Association, we're not the National Retail Federation, or Hotel Motel Lodging Association, but we we have. We used to like to say we fight above our weight class, but we really have, it's a lean, mean fighting machine here. So at the end of the day, we have a very, very robust, government relations team. And, we're always protecting the business format franchise model so people could continue to grow and thrive through franchising, whether you're a franchisee or a franchisor. And again, at the federal, state, and regulatory side, and also internationally too. But at the end of the day, our government relations team, at the time led by Matt Haller, we have a very strong political action committee. And because we have a very strong political action committee, we had a seat at the table when the CARES Act was being drafted. And because we had a seat at the table, we made sure franchising was written into the CARES Act, which made it super easy, almost in a sense, fast-tracked anybody who could prove that they were a franchisee or a franchisor to be able to get PPP money or EIDL money, period. And, if I could just add this one little story. So listen, we sit on coalitions with all of our colleagues and friends at all of these other trade associations. So I'm not going to, I don't want to call out, the other trade association, but I was at a conference and somebody saw my name badge and it happened to be a multi-unit, multi-branded franchisee. And they stopped me and they said, "You guys rocked it during the pandemic. Not only did you save me and my employees, but all the education you did through the webinars, the webinars you did, every day, extremely helpful. You did more than my primary industry association did, and you guys killed it." And I was just like shocked because again, it's like, this is probably somebody who was never involved in IFA, may not have known about IFA all that much, but, now they're like, not only are they addicted to the Kool-Aid, but they're dealing the Kool-Aid, if you know what I mean.
I love it. I love it. And that's the real stuff. So a lot of people, as a franchisee, you may not know everything that could go on at the government level with joint employers and how the government wants to classify franchisors and franchisees differently, and how it easily could have gone the other way where franchisors were not and franchisees were not able to participate in this as easily as they were able to. So having a seat at the table in these types of discussions is critical.
Oh gosh, yeah, 100%. 100%. And at the end of the day, and listen, my background when I started here at IFA was to build our political grassroots program and political education as well. And we cannot, protect the business format franchise model if not for really the franchisee. It's the franchisee. That's who the member of Congress or, local representatives, that's who they want to hear from, because it's the franchisee who is, creating jobs back home in the district. They are the ones that are providing opportunities for people. And that's who, the franchisee voice is more powerful than any other voice, within franchising. It really is.
So I've had multiple friends of mine that were at the last IFA conference, and I couldn't attend because of some sickness that I got.
I wonder what that was. Go figure, right?
Go figure. But I was talking to them after that, and they were just like, "Erik, like, this is so much bigger than I ever thought it was. And there are such amazing people here, from Z's to Zors to Suppliers, because I talked to all three of those. Some were Z's and some were Zors and some were Suppliers, and they're like, "This is amazing." What it did, in from what I heard from them, it opened up their mind into their little industry in franchising, whatever it is. Call it home services, call it call it food, call it from a vendor's advertising or marketing or apparel, whatever it is. They're like, this is so much bigger than I ever thought. And so that was kind of one of the key takeaways from folks that I talked to that attended their first IFA meeting. And they're just like, there's so much happening. So like, what are some of the things that you hear from Z's or Zors, maybe going to Zors, because we talked about franchisees quite a bit, when they're exposed to IFA in its power at the powerful conference there?
You bet. So, listen, I always like to say our annual convention is really the premier franchising event for the year. It's the 10,000 pound gorilla, if you will.
Hey, that's what I said about the Sodak Shindig when we had like 40 right. Here, we'll argue about that later. So
exactly. So, it's like, we have about 4,000 attendees and primarily franchisors, though we did something different this year. This was our first kind of like, coming, first time, out of COVID face-to-face convention. We were lucky enough to have it in 2020, because it was right before, March. But of course, so we only had to miss one in-person convention. But, at the end of the day, on the franchisor side, as we all know, there are so many different maturity levels within franchising. You've got people who are thinking about franchising their business, micro startups emerging. Everybody has a different definition. And then as you work your way up the ladder, all the way up to the big boys and girls, right? And everybody comes to the IFA convention for something different. But at the end of the day, it's always because they want to be able to network with their peers in franchising. And if you look at the bottom rung of the ladder, the startup, the emerging, the new franchisors, even if it's somebody who has 50 units and less, maybe even 100 units and less, they are coming for education and to network. That is why they come to the convention. And, I always have conversations with folks leading up to the convention who've never been. I spend an hour with them on the phone. I go through the entire program with them. And then I send them a follow-up email. I like to say we provide concierge service here on the membership team. We have a very small membership team. It's me and two of my colleagues, Spencer and Sydney. But, I will, depending on, what that, even if that person doesn't know what they need, I could pretty much get a sense based on, where they are, in their maturity level within franchising, and just talking to them for a little bit, what they need. And I'll go through the whole program with them. And then I always tell them, and then the trade show floor, I'm old school, get a legal pad of paper, write down every single pain point you have within your system, whether it's internally, operations, Fran Dev, and then, with your franchisees, whatever it could be. And then I guarantee you, you're going to walk the trade show floor and you will find a supplier member of IFA, and they will provide, the magic pill that will alleviate whatever pain point you are having within your system. So it's a combination of things. And of course it's, it's all the ongoing educational seminars and sessions and roundtables. Me and my team were responsible for the business solution roundtables. We've now, thought leadership is the new catchphrase, right? I think coming out of COVID, it's like everybody. So we used to call them business solution roundtables. Now they're thought leadership roundtables, and primarily put on by the Supplier board. I'm the liaison to the Supplier board within IFA. But listen, these suppliers, they used to be franchisees. They used to be franchisors, or in some cases they weren't, but in some cases, and you probably see this all the time, Eric, there are people out there who, because franchising has matured over the years, who are franchisees, franchisors, and suppliers, Yep. They're wearing 3 hats or wearing 2 hats or still wearing 1 hat. But, there are, listen, there are so many experts in franchising, and that's good or bad, right? Everybody, loves to pontificate in franchising. Everybody's the expert. But I always like to say that, and again, I'm biased. If you're a member, if a company is a member of IFA, then I like to think that, that that they are continually being educated on best practices, and are on top of all the issues that are affecting franchising, whether it's good or bad. And especially if it's a supplier, I always encourage folks, you should only look at those folks that are members of IFA. And look, we have stellar volunteer leaders who they will always, tell a specific supplier, whomever it is that they might meet at a conference, if you're not a member of IFA, I'm not going to talk to you. And I cannot begin to tell you how many times people will call me. I'm at a show. There's a person here who, they're in the marketing business. They need to join IFA because I'm not going to talk to them until they join. Here's the phone.
Like that.
And listen, I mean, we've got people on the membership committee and just people who are just advocates. They make my job really easy.
I have a question.
And
I have a question
awesome
for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever kicked out a supplier that you thought was good and then they turned out to be a bad supplier?
We have, listen, in my tenure, and I won't get into like right now, our board, our officers are reviewing, brand standards for all of our members. And that's been going on for about a year, and it's still going on. I mean, look, we have our summer board meeting coming up in about 2 weeks, and it will be discussed there as well. But at the end of the day, we have a code of ethics, for all of our members, and then we have a specific code of ethics, for our supplier members. And in my tenure, we have, in a sense, I don't like to say the word kicked out, but we have kicked out, I mean, how else am I going to explain? But, or we've had a company, we've had a few suppliers where, it just so happened that, whatever the issue may have been, it just so happened to coincide with their anniversary date for membership renewal. So it just made it really convenient to say, just want to let you know, we're not going to, let you renew your membership, and here's why. And that's happened on the supplier side only about 3 times in my tenure. And on the franchisor side, it's happened only about it's only happened about twice, but there are some franchisors that we just, early on, I was it was highly, suggested that, don't reach out to that person for membership, and here's why. Here's what I'm hearing. You've had suppliers and franchisees that, from your standpoint, didn't get asked to renew, weren't pursued. No. And from my standpoint, and not on the franchisee side, on the never really on the franchisee side. Yeah, Zora and Supplier. We've never kicked out a franchisee member.
You're safe if you get in as a franchisee. You're a lifer. Hey,
pretty much. But I will tell you. I mean, it's interesting, and I get these calls, not a lot, but a handful of times a year from a consumer, and obviously they track me down because they're looking. They Google, whatever franchise location they were in, and they had an issue, or their son or daughter, is an employee at a franchise location, and there's an issue, whatever that issue might be, and they always, for whatever reason, because obviously franchise.org, they find me or they find us, and the call comes to me. And we're not a Better Business Bureau. I'm not a government agency. I quickly explain to them who I am and what we do, but I do ask them to please send me an email if you're comfortable with it, and I will pass that email along to the main contact I have at that franchise or company, and they will handle whatever the issue is. So though we've never kicked out franchisee members, we have had complaints, from time to time at the consumer side, and it's not like it, I could probably count on one hand how many times it happens in a year, but it still happens, and it's interesting, it really is.
One of the things that you talked about earlier was like franchisees or franchisors going to the convention with a legal pad or your iPad, or
Yep.
I would recommend having your phone with otter.ai on there to transcribe notes.
I'm showing my age, man. I know.
No, I think you do all of it. And then what you're going to experience is you're going to have you're not the B team. You're going to have some of the A players on their teams there. You're going to have people like me walking around, where if you try to get on my calendar, you can't get on my calendar. And if you do, you have to pay a lot of money for it. There's a lot of people like that. But when you're in an environment like that, people like me, people that have been on the podcast are ready to talk. They're in the environment to talk. And so whenever I'm at a convention like that, I love to talk to people. Then I'm like, I get to have all these conversations with great people that I would normally not be able to, because I protect my time so much. So I think there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity to be able to learn there.
100%.
Any last thoughts? Because we're going to stop recording. We're going to record a different segment on.
Awesome.
I think it'd be fun for you and I to talk about, like, what do we really think? Like, what do Zors really think about Zs? What do Zs really think about Zors? What do suppliers really think about franchisees and franchisors? And we can take it from two different angles. So that we'll drop that in the Facebook group. But any last bits of wisdom or anything that you want to share with the audience before we go on, before we stop recording?
Well, like I always like to tell people, obviously we're a membership organization. We're a nonprofit, 501c6, because, we are a lobbying group. And we also have the foundation within IFA, which is our 501c3. But again, we continually promote, protect, and enhance franchising. We are always educating our members through our events, through our publications, through our certified franchise executive program. We have a number of franchisees and franchisors and even suppliers who are getting what I always kind of refer to as our master's degree in franchising. And it's, an excellent way for people to, continue and further their education on franchising. And I mean, listen, I'm an association hack, but I ended up getting my CFE about 6-7 years ago. And I'll tell you something. I mean, listen, as I'm sure, like with you, Eric, I learned something new every single day within franchising. I mean, and I've been at this, 23 years now. Listen, I'm not a franchisee. I'm not a franchisor. I'm not a supplier. The closest thing I ever came to really franchising before, my trade association career here at IFA was, as I like to say, pumping ice cream at Carvel in high school, and working for a family that owned, they were a multi-unit Carvel franchisee that had locations in the Bronx, Southern Westchester County, and Northern Westchester County, and that's where I was working at one of their locations. And I'll tell you, it's just, franchising is, we call it the franchise family, right? I mean, it is just it's a relationship business. And like you were saying, I mean, you are a people person, right? I could tell that. I always tell people, if you're a wallflower, don't waste your time coming to the IFA convention, because you've got to be able to network and talk to people. You cannot just sit there and be shy. And it's easy enough for people to help you and guide you. And I always tell people, even if, of course, I want everybody to join IFA. I'm biased. I think there's a lot of value we provide, but I always tell people, listen, I'm here for you. I know you'll join when you're ready. You've got my cell, you've got my email, you've got my direct dial at the office. Use me as a resource. I've got 23 years of all this useless franchise knowledge in my head. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be a sounding board for you at any time. And that's, again, the concierge service that we provide, to our members, but really to franchising. We are ambassadors, as are our volunteer leaders. We see ourselves as franchise ambassadors, if that makes sense.
Well, I love it. I hope people get involved, and I appreciate you coming on here to talk about IFA, everything that they do, and how they help the whole franchising world. Thanks again.
Eric, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.